Hello everyone and welcome to ADM Agriculture's YouTube channel. Today it's Seed Sunday. I'm Beth and I'm joined by Will and we're going to be talking about peas. Hi Will, thanks for joining.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So the first question that I'd like for us to cover is quite a simple one to start with. What benefits can a farmer see from growing peas?
Well, there are lots of options open to growers when they're looking at their crop rotation, but there are actually a lot of benefits in growing peas, especially in a season such as this. You know, like spring crops, it's a great way to manage blackgrass control, especially with peas being that little bit later drilled. This year, even more so than other years, will be quite important because obviously we've had so much wet weather in the last few months. It may force a few people to change their cropping plan from what they previously put in, and peas fit perfectly into the rotation at the last minute. Hopefully, you know, by the time it comes around to planting peas this season, the ground will have dried out a little bit. Hopefully the soil temperature will be improved and there'll just be that little bit of moisture left in the seed bed to give it, you know, the best start that it needs. Then obviously it's all down to the weather. And as we know, living in the UK, that can be quite variable. But, you know, peas in general are a pretty tolerant crop when it comes to seasons where we see a drought. And even though they're a later drilled crop, you know, they're generally early maturing, which are, you know, makes way for the next crop in good time. You know, farmers who are growing green peas or marrowfat peas, something with a little bit more spec to it, may wish to harvest them a little bit earlier, you know, and even with a little bit of higher moisture, just to keep the colour, to retain the colour. After you've harvested your bumper crop, then obviously the land and the soil should hopefully be in pretty decent condition. You know, peas are also a great nitrogen fixer, you know, due to the natural bacteria called rhizoba in the soil, which generally means that there's no need for nitrogen on your pea crop, which is a great cost saving in itself. But it also means that all that stored nitrogen in the soil is going to be really beneficial to the next crop, which is probably going to be a first wheat.
Yeah, thanks, Will. Yeah, so in summary, really, it's a great crop that's also great for the environment at the same time.
Definitely.
Yeah. So as we know, there's lots of different types of peas to choose from, but which type of pea would you recommend for a first-time grower?
I suppose if you're a first-time grower, or at least someone who doesn't grow peas very often, you know, the thought of starting to grow them could be quite daunting. You know, however, don't be put off. You know, there are plenty of low-risk varieties that you can start with until you're happy to venture further into peas. In my opinion, it'd be good to start with a yellow pea. Generally, they're reasonably easy to grow. They've got great end consumer demand, which is always important. From a harvest point of view, they're not as time critical as, say, a blue or a marrowfat, because the end product pea isn't subject to some of the more rigorous specifications that you'd see on a blue or a marrowfat. And then I suppose you could move on to a more riskier, medium risk option, say a blue, which is higher yielding, but the appearance, the end finished product is pretty key to getting the top spec premium. And I suppose once you've mastered that, you can move on to a marrowfat, which is probably the riskier of the three. You know, it's more expensive to grow, but it does offer the best gross margin opportunity. I suppose when you're looking at blues and marrowfats, you just have to remember that the end finished product is key, that the higher specification in terms of, you know, sample size, bleaching and staining, it is important to get in the top premium. But, you know, generally those who are looking to diversify into peas shouldn't worry. I mean, there's plenty of advice on hand should they need it. You know, we have great access to third-party agents who can, you know, give them impartial advice at a moment's notice. I suppose, as always, you know, when we're finished about talking about a finished product, there's always going to be some element of risk. And it's just how we manage that risk. You know, growing-wise, we've got pretty much a variety to suit everyone's needs. Being a vertically integrated company such as we are, you know, from the seed processor all the way through to the end consumer, we've got a great handle on customer requirement. We see a lot of samples in a given season, so spend a lot of time grading peas. And actually, the majority of samples that we see in a season meet human consumption requirement in one form or another. Obviously, pulses now are used in a load of different processes and a number of different products and used in different ways. So by grading them as rigorously as we do, we can determine the size of the pea, the color, any damage on the skin, any bleaching, and pick out the ideal end market for that product. I.e., you know, is it good for frying for wasabi peas, or is it good for soaking for mushy peas, or does it fit perfectly into someone's soup product? You know, and I think another important thing is, you know, all of our buybacks that we do with our farmers are produce for various contracts. They're not fixed. You know, therefore, you know, if the quality doesn't meet what we expect, we'll find another home for it. Or if they don't produce the tonnage that they needed to produce, then it doesn't matter. It takes a little bit of pressure off the grower, you know, whilst we try to maximise the crop's potential at the end of the day.
That's really interesting. Thanks, Will. Just one final question now from me. In your opinion, why should a farmer grow peas for ADM?
Ooh, great question to finish on. I mean, the UK pulse trade is a reasonably small trade, but it's definitely growing. And I feel ADM are perfectly placed. As a business, you know, we've invested a lot of time and a lot of money into expanding and improving our state-of-the-art facility at Long Sutton. The team down there have worked extremely hard over the years to develop a fully integrated supply chain between the UK farmer and the end consumer. And that in itself adds a lot of value to the end product, which is exactly what we want. It allows us to be competitive on farm, but also, you know, give the customer what their requirement is. You know, we've placed probably over 20,000 tonne of peas in the end market, both to UK customers and international customers in the last year. And we want to invest more back into the chain so that we can keep improving what we're doing. You know, in general, pulses are a great environmentally friendly crop, and they're pretty much suitable for most dietary requirements. So as we're seeing people's diets and trends change as we have done over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, there's certainly a growing demand for pulses, and I think we fit perfectly into that. Yeah,
definitely. Yes, so thanks, Will, and hopefully this little video has given anyone that's thinking about growing some peas a bit of an insight into what to expect. If you want any details about any of the varieties that we have to offer, please don't hesitate to contact your farm traders or use the contact details shown at the end of this video. Thank you.
Thanks.